What's going on, everybody? This is Scott, also known as Cha-Ching King. If this is your first time here, my wife Melody and I run an online sales business, and we sell on platforms like eBay, Poshmark, and Etsy. And what I thought I would do today is give you an idea of some of our best sales in the last 90 days or so. But more than that, instead of me just telling you this is the best stuff we've sold, I want to tell you why we picked these things up and why I think that they sold for what they did. It should be interesting, and hopefully you'll find some things in there that give you a better idea of things that you can look for. One of the reasons that I wanted to talk about why these things sold is the odds of you going out and finding the exact same thing as another seller are really not very good. There's a reason that rare items are rare. And so what I want to do is tell you why I picked out these things. Some of them I didn't even know up front that they were worth what they were. So if that seems interesting to you, stick around and we will get right to it. So one of the first items that you're going to see is this little jar. And this little jar is made by a company called Dom Nancy. And the signature on it was very, very hard to read. But the reason that I picked this up is that it's a little 4-inch jar. I didn't know anything about them at the time that I grabbed it, but it looked like it was high quality. So I brought it home. I paid $10 for it. It took a lot of research. It took me a while to figure out what the signature said. But the whole reason I brought it home is that it looked like it was a piece of great glass. If you had it sitting next to like a mason jar, you could tell which one was super cheap. The glass on it was deeply engraved, and it was a green glass, but you could, the painting on it, especially in person, it was very obvious that the painting had been done with gold. Or at least some type of combination of gold. One of the other reasons that I picked it up is normally art pieces that have a signature are a little bit easier to trace, and the odds of you finding them are better if you've got a name attached to it. And the third reason is this was at an estate sale that I had already found some very, very high-end items at. And if I'm going to gamble and pick up something that looks like it might be high quality, then I'm going to do that at a sale where I found a lot of other really, really good stuff. This ended up selling for $1,200, and I paid the shipping on it, and I also paid insurance on it, but obviously $10 into $1,200. Over the last 90 days, this one ranks as my best sale. The next one is not the most money, obviously, that I made during this time period. But man, it had to be one of the coolest things I have ever seen. I picked this up at an estate sale for $40. And at the time that I picked it up, it wasn't working. This is an automaton, and it dates to the early 1900s. And so what it was is you would crank it up, and then music would play, and the teacher would move back and forth. And I actually fixed this. And not because I'm super handy, but as I was cleaning it up and getting it ready to list, I was, the little dolls, the little girls, I was putting them all in their seats and, going to take clear pictures. And there were 2 of the hats missing, that's just the way it is. But as I'm cleaning it up, those 2 hats had gone around back behind the teacher and were caught in the mechanism. And so I took them out, and they hadn't torn anything up. It hadn't torn up the hats. There was no grease on them. And when I cleared them up, the music started playing. And so it worked. At that point, I just used a can of air, cleaned it out, and I had a working automaton. I listed it for about $1,900, and it sat for probably 6 months. And it became apparent to me that that just wasn't going to happen. When I lowered my price and was, in my own head, willing to accept a little bit less, then I got an offer right away from somebody who has and leaves great feedback for $700. I charged shipping on top of it, and That was a great flip. Now, I will say I was a little stressed over this one because there were so many little pieces, but I had little bitty boxes that fit each one of the dolls separately. And so I wrapped each of those in tissue, put them each in a little box. All of those little boxes fit inside of the big box. I saran wrapped that so that nothing could move, and then bubble wrapped it. It fit inside of a box snugly, and then I put that box in a little bit larger box. And because this was designed as a toy, it still didn't weigh anything. It's super easy to ship. I spent a little bit of time, but again, $40 into $700 for Melody and I. That's a great flip. But I picked it up because I could see the age, and I could see that it's, a complex piece that was substantially complete, even though at the time I thought it was missing two hats. So that was a fun one for me to restore and get working. A very fun one to flip. The next one I want to talk about is Melody and I bought a bunch of these, and these were not a massive moneymaker because I actually paid quite a bit for these. The one that you're looking at, I paid $100 for it, and it sold for right in that $300 range. But what I thought I would do, I mean, that's still a good flip. I mean, 100 into 300, I would do that with all of my $100 bills if I could. But the big reason that I've shown this one is because I want to talk about what made it more valuable. If you look, you will see a lot of Russian nesting dolls in the $50 to $100 range. And this one, of course, was worth much more than that. If you look carefully at the pictures, you will see that the painting on this one is exquisite. It's all hand done, but it was also done really, really well. This one had two artist signature. One, an artist designed the overall nesting doll theme, painted the backs. It left a space in the center of them for the portrait, and that was painted by another artist. It was dated, signed by both artists, and there were a lot of pieces, and it was in immaculate condition. And so it really comes down to those when you can show that it's a very, very high quality painting and that there's a little bit of provenance there. There's some dates and some things like that that you can trace it back. That's what made this one worth $300 and not $100. Some of them can go for much, much more, and I don't have those, so I can't tell you exactly what that is. I do know that the price on nesting dolls has come down in the last 10 years, and so you may not be able to find the ones that were closer to $1,500, but still a super exciting sale and educational for Melody and I, because we bought about 10 sets of these, and most of them we paid in the $100 range. Several of them we've got $300 for. Some of them we've got closer to our money back, or maybe a little bit better. Overall, we still come out great, but massive learning experience. It truly comes down to quality on the nesting dolls. The next one, if you follow me on Instagram, this is one that I just recently shared and sold. This is a Mogan's piece, and we were able to identify it based on the paint jobs, the type of mine, because mine were not marked. Marked, they may have gone for more, but we still did really, really well on them. So here's why we picked this one up. One is, it's a complete nativity set, and I paid just a few dollars for it. And this time of year, I am always going to be able to sell a nativity set. And but Melody is the one who was doing some research, doing searching, hand-turned, hand-painted, and we originally thought that these were done. We originally thought that these were Mexican or Russian. It turns out these were made in Denmark. But Melody did some research, and we start by just doing keyword searches, and you keep going until you find something similar. Once Melody was pretty sure that it was a Mogan's piece, then I took a couple of the pieces and I start searching for as close to exact copies as I could get. I did find one of the blue donkey. I found one that was almost identical. It did not have the candle holder in it, but the colors were identical. The leaves were painted the same. It was almost positively done by the same artist as the one that I found, and that one was clearly marked. So we felt very, very comfortable listing it as an unmarked Mogan's Nativity set. This sold in less than a day for $300. And again, we were into it for just a few dollars, but we picked it up because of the quality And the theme this time of year is going to sell, and the price point, we weren't going to lose any money. Okay, this set is probably one of my favorite finds in a long time, because I had absolutely no idea what I was getting. And so this is exactly the kind of piece, instead of me telling you to watch out for these, let me tell you why I bought it and what it ended up being. I bought it because this is one of those estate sales where everything is high quality. The family that lived here had a ton of discretionary money for a very, very long time. But so I'm there and I'm looking and I pick these up, and at first I thought they were bookends, but they were really heavy. So they're brass, which for me is not, I don't buy a lot of brass because I don't know much about it, but they were very heavy. So immediately I'm like, okay, well, these didn't come from the dollar store. And I didn't know what a hippocampus was. I had no idea. I didn't know what orlocks were. I didn't know that they were Venetian. I thought these are super cool. They're heavy. And when I flip them over, you'll see that it had a Made in Italy sticker. And so now I'm looking at these pieces. I can tell they've got a little bit of age. I can tell that they've got some weight to them. They're made in Italy. They were marked $10. And so again, at worst, I spend $10 and I get home and I find out that they're not worth much. And I got $10 worth of education. As somebody who spent most of his adult life going to college, that's cheap education. But as I did the research, the Venetian pieces like these are actually pretty rare. They're pretty rare to have them in that weight. So when I listed them, I put the weight in the description, how much they weighed. I showed it on my scale. But I picked them up because they felt substantial. They felt well made. And that's why I really think you need to depend on your hands some when you're looking at these things. It certainly helped convince me to buy them when I saw the Made in Italy sticker. If it had been made in China, I'd probably leave them. But they were made in Italy. And on this, how did I discover what they were? Well, a heavy brass. And I think I put seahorse originally, and I find out what they are. So super fun find. $300. These were listed 2 days, maybe. They might have been listed 3. But again, very, very quick return. It took me longer to get around to listing them and figuring out what they were than it did for them to sell. All right, the next one, I ended up with it simply because, I can't talk. I wound up with this one because I always buy patches that have age. Patches typically cost you very, very little. I paid up for this one in that I paid $5 for it. And for me, for a patch, $5 is a lot. But I have had Hispano Suiza stuff before. So I did recognize the logo on it. And I also recognized that it was an older one. I bought the patch price. Hispano Suiza is going to be more rare. It's not going to be something that people have copied and reproduced. And there's 50,000 badges out there listed that are identical. But 3... I could tell that this one was made, at least in part, with wool because I could see some bug damage on it. So when I'm looking at this, the age was so apparent in it that this one had some real age to it. Bring it home, again, I do the research. I start searching for it. Turns out that it was the car that this was made for the patch for, was made for... I got to look at my screen real quick. King Alfonso VIII, who happened to love the Hispano Suiza, and that's where the stork logo and all helped me figure that out. And so this patch sold overnight $250. So when you're out, patches can be worth a ton. What I would look for the next time, not that I'm going to find Hispano Suiza patches, but automobiles, trains, any old patch that is made of wool and shows that age that I can get at a reasonable price, I'm probably going to pop on that and then take it home and figure out whether or not it's going to be one that's worth a ton of money. Okay, the next one, we bought out all of these that were at an estate. And they're halcyon days. It's a little trinket box. They don't look like they amount to anything. I may have one here. This is a Halcyon Days. This is not the one that sold, but just to give you an idea of the size of them, that is Halcyon Days. So what it is, we were at an estate sale, and they had just opened, and there were a bunch of these on the table. And you could tell from the box that they were pretty nice. You know, it's got a nice box. And they had all of them marked for $20. $20 a piece, which if you've followed my Instagram or if you have followed my YouTube channel for very long, $20 for me, like that's like a king's ransom. I don't ever pay that much for everything. But we looked up a couple of them. There were some that sold in that $20 and $30 range, which, you know, if something sells for 30 and I paid 20 after eBay fees and shipping and all that, I'm going to lose money. But some of them were hundreds of dollars. So what we did, we bought 84 of them. We bought the whole table. And so, you know, I'm the type of guy that if I dropped a chicken nugget underneath the car, I would go get it and I would still eat it. And I dropped $1,600 on Halcyon Days, something I'd never even heard of, based on less than a minute of research. And we have made bank on them. Now, who gets credit for this one? Melody gets credit for this. I would have probably picked through them and tried to find the ones that are worth a lot of money. But Melody was with me, and she was all in. And you know, the thing is when you're married to someone smart and they feel like this is going to be good, one is, you know, they're going to list it because they're excited about it. And two, they're going to do the research to figure out which one there are. So I may have listed 2 or 3 of the Halcyon Days. Melody listed them all within a week. And for us, that's very fast. We only normally list 5 or 10 items a day at the very most. And she had them all listed within the week. And they have been an absolute gold mine. We should easily triple our money once they've all sold. So this one is a little bit special. If you happen to come across Halcyon Days, the name Lucy Zaron, which was a specific painter or designer, I'd probably have to ask Melody, those are worth more than the others. But almost all of them have brought $75 or $80. And I will do that, 25 into 80. That doesn't scare me at all. So I showed this one to you. The reason we picked it up is they were obviously high quality, and the paint on them, they were dated, they had information booklets, they were easy to look up, and they were easy to research, and just a little bit of time, we popped on the whole thing, and it has been very, very good all the way along. As much as I hate to do it, the next one, Melody also gets credit for these too. These were at the same estate sale as the Halcyon Days. And they actually came on the second day. Once we got home with that initial stack of those little trinket boxes, and Melody's just having a blast listing them, she had gone back through the pictures that the estate sale company had posted on estatesales.net. And looking at those, she found elfinware. I don't know. She figured out they were elfinware because they don't say that on there. There was a ton of them at the estate sale, and all of them were priced at $20, which is kind of a theme for that estate sale company. And most of them were worth $20 to $30. But Melody had figured out the ones with the animals on them or some other specific type of figure as part of it, that those were worth more. And so she has me back, because she won't do a crowd. She has me back over there the next day fighting everybody on the way in. And I got like 3 or 4 of them that had some type of figure on them. And sure enough, they sold right away. $200. $200. The thing is like this big. The key to them is they don't look, even to me, and I'm not a tchotchke kind of person, but even to me, the quality on it's really, really high. The relief on it is very fine, and the paint on them is very well done. And so when you're looking at them, there's a real distinct difference between that and something you'd get at a 5 and dime. Really, really good quality. 2, there was no damage on them. They were really well cared for. And that's key, of course, when you're trying to pick out one of these, because I would imagine any damage on it at all, a crack even, would drive that price down a great deal. So $200. This one was probably listed a week, and great sales. Like I said, we ended up with 3 or 4 of them. Certainly didn't pay, what, $80, and we should triple or quadruple our money on those, even after fees. Super easy money. All right, I get all the credit for this stuff, like all of it. As much as Melody liked listing the Halcyon Days and the Elfinware, when I came across these, I could not have been more excited. I picked up a large 2 boxes of models, unbuilt, most of them unopened car models. And this particular batch, I paid, and I think I posted it on Instagram, is that I bought these from a friend of mine. I went over to his house and we agreed. The first 2 that I looked up were in that $20 to $25 range. So we kind of did some math, and I paid him a couple of $100, and there were about 40 of them. And even after fees and everything, I'd still make really good money, and he made a couple $100, and he just wanted them gone. You need friends like that, but he's always, if he got something, he tries to just get it gone and help his friends out. Well, when I got home, the first 2 that I looked up, I was accurate. That's about what they were worth. About half of them were worth in the $20 to $25 range. What I didn't know is that the other half easily went into the into the $100 and $200 range. And some of them, like this one that I'm showing you, I got $150 for it, but it could have easily been twice that. This one, the chrome on the plastics, and there will be a picture here that comes up where you can see it just didn't quite get chromed. It's still sealed in the package, but mine weren't chromed well, and so the buyer is going to have to deal with that. If you are looking at models, because I have since picked up from an entirely different place another, I think maybe 60 airplane models. They not all of them have the age of these. These were all, the car models were all late 50s to the very early 60s, whereas the airplane models are more very early 60s all the way up into the 90s. Still, what I've learned is that models, if they are unbuilt and in their original packaging, especially once you get before 1980, the price starts going up dramatically. And that was for cars and airplanes. And of course, depending upon the model, they go up a lot. But I would imagine it would apply to any of the plastic kits. And so the lesson there for me was the age and completeness and then rarity, just like anything else, price starts going up. They are also very, very easy to list. Even if the box is open, you just spread it out, you take a picture of the parts. But if you have the original box, it has a model number on it. They're almost all dated. You can easily look them up, do a little bit of research, and you've got it listed in just no time at all. And that's always a key for us, is we want the job to be easy. So car models, airplane models, this was a good sale, but it was really just part of a larger group of things that we sold, and definitely a bolo for you to look at. Check the date, and they should be easy for you to look up, even if there's only 1 or 2 and you're at a sale. Okay, this one is a really good reason for me to tell you how we picked it up instead of just go watch for this one. You're probably not going to find the exact same thing that I found, but you might find similar circumstances which make it worthwhile to pick up. So 2 years ago, Melody and I were at the epic estate sale of all estate sales. It was, we call it the Air Force estate sale. It's the one that we got all the late 60s Seiko diver watches at, all the military stuff. At this same estate sale, I found a box of dishes, and they were still in their original box with the original receipt. And the original receipt was 1969, and it showed the shipping back to the United States through the Air Force. There was just a lot of cool things about it that made me interested in it. I bought it, one, I liked the pattern. And if I got home and they turned out not to be worth anything, I had a brand new set of dishes. The guy originally wanted $100. I bought so much stuff at this estate sale, and I was really flip-flopping around at 100 because I don't need a set of dishes that bad. And I wasn't sure they would sell. I wasn't sure I would want to ship them. And finally he was like, hey man, go get the dishes. He goes, I'll let you have them for $50 because we spent a thousand, maybe 1,500 at that estate sale, which I have actually covered that estate sale in a previous video, and you need to go back and watch it because it was crazy. So I get home, and I hesitated for a long time. I did finally get around to doing some research on them, and the dishes were pretty valuable. Most of the people were selling theirs for $25, $30 a piece, but mine were brand new. They were still in the original plastic. They were still in the original box with the original receipt. So I parted it out. There were 91 pieces. Remember, I paid $50. And I didn't keep good track. In fact, the only reason that I have this one to show you is that somehow it had dropped off of eBay. And you know, because the 91 pieces took me, including these, almost 2 years to sell, but this one probably hadn't been listed for 6 months, and I relisted and it sold. That's why it's on there. But massive amount of money. I think we cleared $1,500 on a set of dishes. What made these double nice, other than the terrific profit, was that if they're in their original packaging, and this is, I would recommend this if you're like me and you loathe shipping things that are going to be difficult, in their original packaging, they already have protective layers on everything. All, say, the saucers were all in their own little box. And so I could literally just take them out, double box them, as long as I sold them in quantity, in their original quantity sets, you know, like the 4 saucers together and things like that. I shipped 91 pieces and didn't get a single one broke. And so $1,500 profit. So I included this one not because an $80 platter is a terrific sale, but I picked it up because it was new and vintage in its original box with its original receipt. I was able to show provenance in my ad, and I think that increased the value because I got way more than what other people had been asking. And 2, I brought it home because I wasn't against keeping it. I liked the set, and if I paid $50 for china, I don't have to hold my breath when the niece and nephew come over and eat. So we ended up falling in love with it being sold, not falling in love with it, keeping it for our own. All right, and the last ones I'm going to show you in this sale, I picked up a box of these, again, at an estate sale. If you go back and watch my videos, I don't know if I show these specifically, but I bought out the remnants of an estate. And I don't know how these got missed. They had the whole box for $12. That's what they had the box of ornaments at. So let me tell you, I mean, why I bought them is because I bought the whole estate. But let me tell you why I would buy these again if I found them. One is vintage Christmas always sells for me. It doesn't matter what time of year it is. I have always sold it, and I've always sold it quickly. So there was a box of these ornaments. There were 12 in the box, and the box would have been $12. Everybody passed it up. I take them out, and what I'm looking for on ornaments, if I'm getting the glass ornaments, is these were hand blown. If you look at the details on it, you can see that it was all made individually. Somebody made these one at a time. And 2, they're marked Italy. For me, I've had way better luck with Italian ornaments than from anywhere else. More than Germany, more than West Germany, more than France. For me, it's been the Italian ones. And so the box of 12, they averaged $40 to $50 a piece. And that was not sitting on them and waiting for them to sell. I sold all of them within a few weeks of having listed them. And so vintage Christmas, not just in October and November and December, pick it up whenever you find it, because you may not see it again. And look for things that are going to be rare because of how they're made. If it was a one-off, even if they made the same character over and over and over again, if they're handmade, they're all going to be different. And on these, I probably cleared $300 on the box of ornaments. And because of their size, I wrapped them in tissue, put them in a little box, and then I put that box in a bigger box. Super easy to ship. They don't weigh anything. Didn't get a single one broken, and people love them when they get them. That kind of wraps up our best solds for the last 90 days or so. And you'll notice there's a lot of things in there that I didn't cover. We've had some terrific sales. Again, the reason for the video isn't just to show, hey, look at all the expensive stuff I sold. It's to give you some kind of idea of why we picked things up that we don't necessarily know a lot about. We consider what we do when we buy things, a lot of times that's just part of our education. And I have shared, and I will share in upcoming videos, things that I bought that weren't worth much, so that you can see that, because I learn just as much from those as I do the ones that end up being worth a ton of money. Our business model is not to list 20, 30, 40 items a day. We want time to source. We want to go to garage sales. We want to go to estate sales. And that's the part of the job that we love. And we buy a lot of stuff, and we learn a lot along the way. We're making pretty decent. I think I will show it, because I know that it was there. That's our 90 days is a little bit above $30,000, and of course that's not all profit, but we don't pay much for our items, so it's a good deal of profit. But it also provides us with a ton of stuff that we can gift to other people. My goal as a reseller, and Melody is right there with me, our goal isn't just to be able to put this out on YouTube and make more money than everybody else that you've seen. If we were going to do more than anybody else, I think one of the things that we would like to be able to say is that we've given away as much or more than anybody else. Percentage-wise, we're probably at 50% of the inventory that we bring home that we give other people. I don't sell to other resellers. I've given it all away if I can, and we enjoy that. Like, that's a big part of it for us. So I hope that you enjoyed that. I hope that it came across as more than just a what sold. I'm hoping that there's a little bit of why in there for you, about why it sold, why we picked it up. We love what we do. We're having a great time, and that's it. I appreciate you tuning in. If you haven't done so, I would love it if you would like the video, comment on it, and subscribe. I really would. It helps my channel out a lot, and I have enjoyed making the videos more than I thought that I would, and so I'd like to keep doing it, and it makes it easier for me to do that. So if you don't mind, subscribe for me. That's it. I'm done. I appreciate you tuning in. I appreciate you watching all the way through, and I will see you on the next one. Bye.